Welcome to Council of Geeks. My name is Nathaniel Wayne, and you are joining us for the largest roundtable that we have attempted. I'm joined, as I have been previously, by Ryan Daly, Paul Scavito, and we also now have Jason Scherer joining us as well. And we have all just gone and seen Avengers: Age of Ultron. We came, we saw, did we enjoy?
First impression, it was very entertaining. I started off enjoying it from the first minute, and I never stopped enjoying it. And I found myself, as I was watching it, liking each individual scene more than any individual scene from the first one. But taken as a whole, it felt really big and not necessarily cohesive.
I don't know how long the original cut of this movie was.
The original cut was over 3 hours.
See, that's the thing.
And this is 2:20.
I want to see the 3-hour version of this movie.
I do too.
Yeah.
I really do too.
Because I enjoyed it, and I did like it, but a lot of the scene transitions were very jumpy. You can sort of feel the pieces missing, not in a it doesn't make sense way, but in a I'm sure there's a cut where that had more room to breathe, or there was a smoother transition to that.
It doesn't come together as a whole for me in that I think it's fairly obvious at this point that Marvel, I think, has a standard second unit that is doing all of the action direction. Because I could see some very big differences in style where I could see shots and I'm like, oh, that has Whedon written all over the shot the way he's doing this particular shot. Mm-hmm. But then there were other parts of the action scenes that were just shot incredibly generically.
There were scenes that I did like. I was actually bored through chunks of the film. Oh. And I would say it had major problems with pacing. I think for the first time, I would argue the cast of characters was too large. I felt that the action sequences were fun. I felt like the draws between them were way too long. This was not something I felt in the first film. Was that I felt like the first film was perfectly balanced.
Well, let me ask you guys a general question. We get two characters who we get major backstory for. Were those backstories necessary? Did they deepen our understanding of the characters in a way that made us more sympathetic towards them?
We're talking about Black Widow and Hawkeye, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. In the case of Black Widow, no. In the case of Hawkeye, yes. But I don't know if that's prejudicial just because I know more of Black Widow's backstory just being a fan of the comic books. So what they had to tell me about Black Widow's backstory, I kind of already knew. Mm-hmm. Whereas what they showed me about Hawkeye's backstory, it was stuff that I did not expect and caught me off guard. So I'm more favorable to that.
Mm-hmm. I had the exact opposite reaction to those backstories.
Wow.
During Black Widow's backstory, I was deeply enthralled in her story. But the thing is, I don't know Hawkeye's either.
The backstory that they gave him was unique to the film in that it was not that has never been established in the mainstream Marvel universe.
Okay.
Yep.
It was sort of very briefly touched on in the Ultimate Marvel universe of the Ultimate Comics.
It felt like, oh, so now they're going to fix the fact that they didn't sort of develop Hawkeye in the first movie. This is our scene for developing Hawkeye in this movie.
I won't argue that was the intent. I will argue that, for me at least, it worked. As blatant as that intent was.
Hawkeye, I liked fleshing him out. I liked spending more time with him. Because he is the most human on this team of gods and monsters.
I felt like that the scenes with him were examples of, now we need to say something important. And a character is going to say something important, and another character is going to go, mm-hmm.
And there was one moment where it did feel like where I thought the film stopped. And it's when we introduce another character, which, is that official? Can we talk about him without...
I'm assuming you're talking about Vision.
Yes.
He got his own character poster. Which actually, I'll just, before we get into him, I wish I hadn't known he was in the film. It doesn't wreck the film that I knew going in, but I remember there sitting wishing, I wish that it was slowly dawning on me what this was, as opposed to realizing immediately as soon as the pieces started coming together on that character. And I blame marketing on that one.
He's introduced late in the game,
Yep.
And for a while it feels like it's going to be his movie for Act 3.
Yep. And that's actually part of my problem with the movie, is that, and we talked about this with the first film, was sort of whose film was it? Mm-hmm. And there were times during this one where I felt like the narrative like literally jumped tracks, and we were suddenly in different characters' movies, and we were like, this is Hawkeye's film now, and then this is Tony's film, and
I think part of that might have to do with there were people held on to their own agendas for a lot longer in this film versus the first one. Mm-hmm. What did everyone think of Ultron?
I want to go into this a little more detail a little later as to why there were moments where I actually hated this character. There were moments I really liked him. I
actually liked him a lot.
Yep.
But I really felt kind of the weight of stuff that we were missing. There's a lot of implied sort of connection that he has with other certain characters that feels like I'm missing the development of that, but they try and pay it off anyways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, like, I'm seeing holes in the way the character is presented, but I still liked him.
But I mean, it's like one of the great things that I like about Ultron is you see him lose it on occasion. You know, he's holding it together and he loses it, and he just acts out of anger. You know, which is not something that you expect a robot to do, to like lose its temper.
He was established very quickly that I get, okay, artificial intelligence, bad guy, I get that, that's pretty easy, it's been done before. Then I felt like progressively his plot got more complicated than it needed to be in order to introduce other elements of the film.
But he does have some of those moments of anger. He does have that, so he's obviously not operating just on this is a cold, emotionless calculation, humans are the problem, I will wipe out the humans thing.
Right.
And so whenever he did parts of his plan that maybe didn't seem like the most efficient thing to do, there's a part of me that went, you're doing it because you think it's slightly more elegant, arrogant way of going about it that I could buy this kind of character doing.
Who did you feel like was the MVP of this movie?
I'm going to give it to Chris Evans in this one. I really liked his development as a character in Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. And that development carries through in this film. It's like he wants to get back to where he was, but he also recognizes the impossibility of it. It's like, look, I know this is an impossible dream, but I'm still going to chase it anyway, because what the hell else am I going to do?
I think MVP for me, I'm going to be specific about this, was Hulk. And with all due respect to him, not Mark Ruffalo, but actually Hulk. If for no other reason than we got to see him truly rage.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, and I don't know why, Nathaniel, but you and I are just going to have to not see eye to eye in this one. And so but the thing is that I give it to Mark Ruffalo because my favorite moments in the film really came from Mark.
I'm going to go with Hawkeye for this one.
Okay.
I felt like Joss made amends in how Hawkeye was used in the first one. He got some of the best lines. He got more character development than any of the other characters. Now, most of the other characters have their own film franchises. Yeah, right. They can explore that. All of the new characters really impressed me, and I wanted to see more of them.
Well, so it seems like sort of the sum up is we've got 3 not as good as the first one, but still fun, and 1 had some big issues. Is that a fair assessment?
That is fair.
I think we'll end on that note, and you can join us again for the spoiler-filled commentary, which will no doubt go on for about 75 hours.
Yeah.
So come on back for that if you feel like it. Until next time, this council is adjourned.